Hello everyone, my name is Stephen Redman and welcome to Pastor's Library. This is the channel where we discuss everything to do with theology books that might be on a reading list for a seminary course, for a bachelor's or master's degree in theology or biblical studies, or maybe even just a book that's caught your eye, piqued your interest in a bookshop or in your own pastor's office. Today I want to talk about a fairly recent series of introductory books, and if you like what I have to say, please give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Please remember to subscribe and click on the bell. That way you'll always know when we release a new episode. So today I want us to talk about In 7 Sentences. This is a series which are quite affordable. I mean, I've paid about £11 each for most of these, but they can be as high as £17, speaking in British money. But I was first attracted to these by the name Christopher Wright, who has written the Old Testament in 7 Sentences. They all have the same subtitle, A Small Introduction to a Vast Topic, which is very descriptive, makes an awful lot of sense. Some people say to me, first of all, why do you deal with some of these entry-level books? I thought we'd talk about academic books. Well, I think that books like this are an excellent pre-reader for a course. So if you're going to go on to a course on the Old Testament in September, this is a good book to read beforehand. This is a good book to read for a house group leader. This is a good book to read if you've just got an interest in the Old Testament. And I don't think we should ignore books like this because they do have a value. Now, Christopher Wright has written some of the most fantastic theology books over the years, and I just saw his name advertised, or I think I maybe follow him on Amazon, and I got an email about this, or something like that happened. And the Old Testament in 7 Sentences piqued my interest. I wanted to understand how someone could describe the Old Testament in 7 sentences. So Christopher Wright wrote this in 2019. It's 174 pages. Most of these books seem to be around 150 pages. It's got endnotes, it's got discussion questions for if you're wanting to use it with a house group, a home group. And the 7 titles of the 7 chapters are Creation, Abraham, Exodus, David, Prophets, Gospel, and Psalms and Wisdom. Now, those 7 titles, you might look at them and say, well, he's missing a heck of a lot of the Old Testament out. But remember, this is designed to be an introduction, a small introduction of that. And he doesn't actually miss out buckets. It's just, he takes up these 7 key themes. I mean, who would have thought gospel would be one of his 7 words? But it is. And it makes a lot of sense in the way he portrays it. Now, I have to say, I found this very absorbing. I think I took it home. I think I read it in two evenings. And I thought, well, that's really good. This is just so accessible. But if you are maybe more of a New Testament person and you're wanting to get into the Old Testament, this is a really good place to start. So I commend it to you. I think it's excellent. So having had that on my bookshelf for a while, I thought, I wonder if there's a New Testament in 7 sentences. And I found that there was. It was published in 2019. It's 144 pages. And it's written by Gary M. Burge. Now, I've read other things he's written as well, so again, this seemed to be a sensible plan to follow. His 7 chapters are fulfillment, kingdom, cross, grace, covenant, spirit, and completion. And like the rest of them, it's got good endnotes, index, discussion questions. It's a really nice little handy-sized book. And I think for an awful lot of people, this will be a great entry to the New Testament. I think my first time at Bible college, I think one of the very first modules I did was Introduction to the New Testament. This would have been a great introduction to that course. And, sometimes we have to consider people's own position and whether or not we are making things easy for them. If you haven't done a degree level course before, it can hit you like a ton of bricks. It can be like crashing your car into a lamppost, the shock to your system. And I think it's quite good to have something that's a little bit lower level to tease you into the subject. So I thought that this was at least as good as Chris writes, and I think it's an excellent book. Now, the other two that I have seen so far in this series, and of course some of my American listeners will probably tell me there's another 17 or something over there, but I think over in England we've got 4. This one, Christian History in 7 Sentences, by Jennifer Woodruff Tate. This was written in 2021, so technically it's actually the newest in the series. 168 pages. Each chapter has suggested reading at the end of the chapter, and I have to say that this is probably better than the others in that respect. It has endnotes at the back of the book. It has a good index. It is what you would hope for. The 7 chapters are the Edict of Milan, the Nicene Creed, the Rule of St Benedict, the excommunication of Patrick Carolius by Pope Leo IX via Cardinal Humbert, which is the biggest mouthful in his whole series, but the reading of it is a lot easier than the title of it. Martin Luther's 95 Theses, the Edinburgh Conference, and the Second Vatican Council. Now, I would say to you that I didn't leap into this volume because church history, and I know how vital it is, please, you don't have to get on my case about this, but sometimes it isn't the thing that makes me want to jump into the study of it. And I saw these 7 titles and I thought, well, I think there's more than that. I mean, the Second Vatican Council one, I really understand that because I've got some Catholic friends and I've done some reading on the subject, and I really see how that has had a big impact and how it's rolled over for the rest of us. But, I would probably have put a chapter in there about the Pentecostal charismatic renewal of the 20th century and how it's turned church growth round. I would probably put something in about that. But that isn't the view of the author. The author sees these 7 issues as key, and actually, when you read it through, you think, actually, this is good. So, what I would say to you is, I probably wouldn't want this to be the only introductory book I read on church history. There are other ones that I would recommend, particularly the ones by David Allen. I think he's had 2 titles over the years. I'm not sure if the latest one is There Is a River, but anyway, that's certainly one of them, and you can get it on Amazon. But this is definitely a book that you should read if, like me, you struggle to get into more serious terms on church history. The last one in this series is by Douglas Groothuis. I hope I've got that right. If not, Douglas, I apologise. But this is philosophy in 7 sentences. Now, you say, well, Old Testament, New Testament, I get that. Christian history, I can get that. Philosophy, well, let me say to you, as a pastor, I find the reading of philosophy to be helpful. Not that I do it anywhere near as much as I do theology in general, but I have probably got about 25 books, sort of one little shelf on theology and some of the key players over the centuries, which are without question helpful. And why I say that is that whatever you think about the study of Christian worldview, everyone has one, a worldview at least. And sometimes we need to be able to understand where people are getting the worldview from and how their worldview might be substantiated by others or undermined by others. And that's why I think philosophy is an interesting thing to read. You know, like I say, I've got coming up for 4,000 books in my office here. But, 25 of them is not a lot to talk about. But, I think it's important to have read a little bit of Nietzsche. I think it's important to read a little bit of Kierkegaard. These people, they're all important thinkers. Anyway, this book has as its 7 chapters, Protagoras, again, I don't know if I've got that right, Socrates, Aristotle, Augustine, Descartes, Pascal, and Kierkegaard. Now, this has been written by a Christian for Christians. So clearly, he's leaning towards those people that may have more to say to us. But I must say to you, if you go through the pages, you'll come across Plato, you'll come across Pythagoras, you'll come across Camus, Chesterton, Foucault, Franklin, Hume, Thales, Tulik, Nietzsche. There's loads more. I mean, this is a little bit of everybody, but focusing mainly on 7 characters. And all I can say is, if this is the only book you ever read on philosophy, it's not a bad one to choose, frankly, because it will give you access to some thinkers that have something that might help and support us. And it will also help you see some people who clearly are not supportive. So, that book came out in 2016, so I think it was actually the first in the series. 159 pages. And like the other 3, I think it's got its place. So what am I saying here? Well, I'm saying this. I think that as a series, as an introductory book, these have a place that is not just helpful, but I think probably essential. And I would recommend them to anybody to get you started. What you want with a book like this is suggestions for other reading. And the truth is, these books do not have a brilliant bibliography, but from the end notes, you can put together something for yourself. And ultimately, you will know who the key players are, and it's ever so easy to look them up and see what they've written. So I would suggest that this and its brothers are excellent books for your bookshelf. And if you've got someone in the family that's, wanting to know a little bit about a little bit, then why not treat them for one? These are books at least that will not set you back the earth. These are quite affordable, paperbacks, they're quite well put together. And frankly, I think they have something good to offer. So that's the In 7 Sentences series. And if you've liked what I've had to say, please give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Why not leave a comment? It would be great. I love to interact with you. I do try to answer everybody eventually. If you make sure you've subscribed and you've clicked on the bell, then we'll let you know as soon as we launch another episode. So until next time, everybody, bye!